This guy called my office the other day and he asked to speak to the manager. And my boss, the manager, was not in the office. He was on a much undeserved vacation. And that made me the highest ranking individual in that office. And I am not the manager. That is not my title. That is not my job. But I love doing not my job. So I took that phone call. I said, "Hi, this is Joe. How can I help you?" And he said, "Are you the manager?" I didn't want to lie to this guy, so I spoke the truth. I said, "You asked to speak to the manager. This is Joe. How can I help you?" He said, "Yeah, I applied for a job a few weeks ago. I submitted my resume and an application, and I haven't heard back from anybody." I said, "Fascinating, and you took our lack of response as an invitation to call. How presumptuous, and what position did you apply for?" He said, "I applied for a sales position, and I was hoping to set up a time for an interview." I said, "What? That's not how this works. We will reach out to you if we're interested. Chances are we looked at your resume and your application, and we found you unqualified." He said, "No, that's not right. Trust me, I'm qualified." I said, "You're not qualified to tell me that you're qualified. You need to take no for an answer." He said, "That's just it. I'm applying for a sales position, and I think a good quality salesman doesn't take no for an answer." I said, "Not taking no for an answer does not a good salesman make. That just makes you worse than the bear." He said, "Look, if you give me the interview, I guarantee you're going to give me the job." I said, "A good salesman does not make guarantees, but if you want that interview, okay. I think a good quality salesman has the ability to pivot and think on their feet. Your interview begins now." He said, right now?" I said, "That is a close-ended question. That's a red flag in sales." "Yes, right now. First question, how many languages do you speak?" He said, "Just one, English." I said, "Are you sure? Because I'm also speaking English and you don't seem to understand when I tell you that you are not qualified." The answer is no. "You're welcome for my time. We will not be in touch." He said, "Look, I'm really desperate." I said, "I know, I can tell, and I don't care. Good day, sir." He said, "Just give me 5 minutes. I can head down to your office right now and we can meet face to face. I think I would perform much better in person." I said, "I appreciate your pernicious persistence, but I don't respond well to threats." I said, "Good day," and then I hung up the phone. After work, I was headed to my car, and this guy approached me. He said, "Hey, are you Joe?" I said, "Yeah, I'm Joe." He said, "Can I punch you in the face?" I said, "No." And then he punched me in the face anyway. And he said, "I don't take no for an answer." It was safe to assume that it was the same guy that I interviewed over the phone. And I said, "Look, man, you're not going to get the job. Number one, my dad hit harder than that. Number two, I have no power of hiring you. I am not the manager." He said, "Bullshit. You said you were the manager." I said, "No, actually, I never said that, which is why you would make a terrible salesman."